What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu Therapist Podcast. I am super excited to have Marshal D. Carper on the podcast today. Marshal is a pretty unique guy in that he has written a book, the Cauliflower Chronicles, where he went and trained for 6 months in Hawaii with BJ Penn. He's also a marketing consultant and a jiu-jitsu practitioner, man. He was just absolutely awesome to talk to. He's even developed a video game, which is great. We all love video games. But, man, it was really cool to pick his brain. He's done a lot in the sport and a super nice guy with tons of information and just tons of great advice. We get to talk everything from him working with BJ Penn and writing articles and writing a book, and even the knee injuries he's gone through. So I love the podcast. It was an absolute blast. Thanks to Marshall for joining me, and enjoy it, guys. It was great.
You are now listening to the Jiu-Jitsu Therapist Podcast.
Good, man. Nice to meet you, brother. Thanks for coming on.
No, not a problem. It's very cool of you to reach out. It's nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, dude. Well, welcome. I mean, I appreciate it. Nothing really formal. You got your beverage of choice?
Yeah, I got some water.
This is like my tradition now. You ever had this beer? Fat Tire?
No, I have not.
It's pretty good. You should try it.
I'll check
it's pretty
it out.
Good. I appreciate it. So, like my tradition to, I'm pretty small time, man. So,
that's where all big things start.
Man, yeah. Like it's been cool. Actually, initially I read your book. I actually got it right here. I'll show you. Just so you.
Oh, thanks for picking that up.
Hey, man, just so you know, just so you believe me. No, I really did. Like, I picked it up, and I was like, just looked interesting to me, because I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. So I was like, man, it just looks interesting. So I read it, man. It was a great read. I enjoyed it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's very kind.
Man, I think it took some balls for sure to do what you did, man. Go to Hawaii and stuff.
I've been blessed. I mean, I was not brave is not a word I would use to describe myself, but it was good. It was good.
What was like? I mean, I read the book. What do you think like your motivation was, like your drive to do that?
I mean, so I was a dumb kid, right? So like all the stuff about like breaking up with a girl and like actually thinking that was the end of the world for me, and that like that was all pretty real for me at the time. It's always really goofy to look back at it after, some 10 years. That was like 10 years ago at this point. So now it's like, there's a lot bigger fish to fry than things to worry about. But at that time, like that was a big motivator for me, just to try to get out of my shell box and kind of see what life had to offer when I felt like things were blown up around me.
Yeah, do you feel like that kind of exposed you, though, a little bit? Like, people knowing you're, like, I mean, I'm some guy from Louisville, Kentucky, and, like, I know your, like, private inner thoughts and kind of what you were.
I'll be honest with you, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's not, so people are always really cool about it. Like, nobody's ever been mean about it in person. I mean, I've got some shitty emails, but it's off balancing, right? Because as soon as someone's like, I read your book, and it's like, you're 250 pages ahead of me in this conversation because I know nothing about this person that's talking to me, and they have all this background information on me. So it's in that part, it gets a little scary. Nothing ever bad has come from it. It's just my own social anxiety, really, that makes it weird.
Yeah, like what made you want to write a book?
Writing was really the only thing that interested me and I felt like I could get good at. I just kind of dumbed into a couple professors in college. I went to college for really no other reason other than to have something to do. Like, I had zero motivation, terrible student. And I had a couple professors that kicked me in the ass and said that I might be able to do something with this.
Yeah.
So I started practicing at it and just kind of grinded it out, tried to make something of it.
How did like you find your way to jiu-jitsu? Like, I mean, with, because I know you wrote for like a website, I think, for a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of serendipity involved there, right? Like, I got lucky that the sport was pretty young at the time. Like the first Ultimate Fighter had just recently wrapped up or something like that. So it's kind of at the beginning of that wave.
Yeah.
So when I started writing, I saw the UFC on television, and I always got picked on when I was a kid. Always wanted to be like a karate master, have a superpower or something. So I saw that, and I was like, jiu-jitsu looks cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, if I really like jiu-jitsu, maybe I should write about it. And at the time, since it was young enough, it was a little bit easier to email a couple websites and be like, hey, you want some content? And then just kind of build it up from there. So I've been fortunate. I've been really fortunate for a lot of different reasons kind of coming together all at once.
Yeah. How did you know, did you think it would get, I mean, I don't know how big you are exactly, how, you know, what you do now, so you can maybe tell me about it. I actually listened to your podcast on marketing.
Oh, that's also terrifying.
Well, here's the thing, man. It is, and I kind of know how you feel, but I feel like knowing some background, like, so I would know. Like, I'm not stalking you or anything. Maybe I am. You never know.
I mean, you're being a journalist. I appreciate that.
And I'm not much of a journalist at all. I'm a physical therapist. But I don't know, man. Just knowing, kind of like picking your brain a little bit, seeing kind of what you're into and what motivates you. I mean, I think that I feel like you've been fairly successful in what you've done. You know, you've written a book, and, you know, you're a fairly young guy. I think that's you've accomplished a good deal. You know, especially in jiu-jitsu.
That's very kind of you. I feel like I'm still pretty small time, but that's very nice of you to say.
Why do you say that?
I mean, I don't know. It's just, I'm not like driving a yacht around or anything. Like, it's just, I'm just the guy that wrote about the sport. And some people were nice enough to buy a couple copies of a book, and that's opened some other doors for me to do some other work. It's just, it's just one step at a time. It's nothing super, super crazy, super intense. I get to do a lot of what I enjoy doing. I've had a lot of really shitty jobs, and I'm not doing those now, which is awesome. So I'm pretty.
That's like, really, man. That's what it's all about. Like, you know, we're on this freaking planet for whatever you believe in, you know. But we're on this planet for, I mean, no time really. I mean, you know, I remember it was Sunday night, and now I'm like, it's Thursday. I'm like, shit, where did the time go? You know, it's already, you know, so time goes. There's not enough time to do something you hate doing. And that's kind of what interested me about you as well, because I'm a physical therapist and I love doing that, but I also love jiu-jitsu. And like, I've just gotten to this point where I want to mold those two things together. And, you know, I think you've done that, and that's really interesting to me. So, I mean, that's why I was interested in really doing the podcast with you.
Yeah, I mean, that part's it's strange, because one of my biggest problems, I feel like, is anytime I have a hobby, I want to make a career out of it somehow, which kind of eliminates the purpose of having the hobby in the first place.
Sure.
So, you know, it's been great to do the jiu-jitsu work and travel and do some books with some fighters and all that stuff. Like, I'm super thankful for all that. I wouldn't throw it away. But because jiu-jitsu is a job for me, it eliminates a lot of the enjoyment that more casual people get.
Sure.
Like, if I'm having a frustrating professional moment in jiu-jitsu, where do I go to unwind from that? Where everybody that I would train with, you know, they're leaving the office to come train so they can blow off steam and de-stress that way. And so when you're like in the thick of it, you kind of see how the sausages get made sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not always super awesome. So doing more of the marketing stuff that I do has helped with that, where I can kind of spread it out a little bit.
Right.
And take on a little bit more of the jiu-jitsu work that I want to do versus have to do.
Okay.
That makes things a lot better. But yeah, sometimes always having the hobby as the job.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
I love doing physical therapy, you know, but yeah, it's when you have to get up on Monday or whatever and go do it. Sometimes it's when you're forced to do it, it's not as fun. You want to, maybe that's a mental thing, but I don't know.
It's not even like the force to do it. You know, there's a big difference. So like I've worked with a lot of gym owners on like growing their school, right?
Okay.
And being a great instructor and running a successful jiu-jitsu school as a business, it's like two totally different skill sets.
I understand that.
You have to deal with. So when you get kind of mired in taking care of the insurance, collecting your leads, doing the follow-up on the leads, doing the sales call, the landlord's being a jerk, it starts to sap away from kind of that like pure joy that you get from the sport. It's just, and I think that happens with anybody that pursues anything professionally. I mean, I think there's a point where fun things stop being fun if you're doing them for a job. And like, it just happens. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Like, I'm sure Michael Phelps doesn't love swimming every day, but you know, there's days when it's going to suck. And, you know, at that time, like that's the price you pay for being a professional at that point.
Sure.
Right.
What got you into jiu-jitsu, like, to begin with? Was there anything, did you do any other sports growing up or martial arts or anything like that?
So I was never allowed to do anything contact. My parents were really worried that I would get hurt. Apparently they were justified in believing that because jiu-jitsu's destroyed me. But,
we can get into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I played a lot of soccer growing up, and that was about it. And then when I got to college, I'd been like picked on and bullied. Kind of like really generic Karate Kid story of what to like rise up and defend yourself. So when I got to college and I saw some Royce Gracie stuff on television, there were some UFC highlights on Spike. Like, hey, this looks cool to me. So I bought some Cesar Gracie DVDs. Found some friends that were kind of as dumb as I was, would watch a DVD and then go fight in the backyard.
Yeah, go try.
It was really hard at that time, especially because I'm from Pittsburgh. I still live in Pittsburgh. At that time, it was really hard to find a school. You know, the closest school that taught anything remotely close to jiu-jitsu was a combat submission wrestling, like an Eric Paulson affiliate. You know, they were an hour away. And then the most legit jiu-jitsu school at the time was like an hour and a half away from where I was living. So it was just really tough to train. So we were doing it in the backyard. Eventually got to the point, it was like, I think I need to talk to somebody that knows what they're doing.
Right.
Just started kind of gutting out the drive and figuring out, you know, how to do that as a broke college student and pay for it and everything. And it turned out okay. It's really cool to see how much it's proliferated at this point. It's a lot easier to get into.
Yeah, for sure. My kind of jiu-jitsu journey, as I like to say, was, I would say, I mean, my dad brought home like the UFCs, like the VHSs, you know. I was 10 years old. I remember 93, I was 10 years old, so I'm 33 now. And, man, you know, watching – I tell this all the time. I'm originally from Russia, and we loved Oleg Taktarov because he was like the Russian bear.
Oleg is like old school badass. Like,
yeah, I was like, man, we loved him, man, when he fought like Tank and all that shit, and he fought Marco Huas in his early UFCs. And we were just like, I remember just being on the edge of my seat, and I knew this shit's already happened long ago. You know, it's VHS, it's reruns, but I couldn't get enough. Like, the feeling that I got from, like, watching the UFC, the early UFC, was just really weird. Like, I don't get that feeling very often anymore, like, watching fights. Certain fights will kind of give you that excitement. But, I don't know, it just kind of, it was in the back of my mind always. And then eventually I decided to go try out a jiu-jitsu gym after watching some local fights. We had some guys that fought locally. And I just had a buddy that I knew, and I just kind of went up there, and then I've been training, you know, it's probably been 9 years now, so I'm a brown belt, so I've been at it, you know, I've seen, and I've been training for a really long time. It's not a long time, but man, I've seen jiu-jitsu blow up.
No, that's a long ass time. it's a decade of your life. Like, that's
I know.
Yeah,
and I
crazy.
never, you know, I just did a podcast with my buddy Adam, who is also a brown belt. We started together. We're kind of childhood friends. And, like, I never thought I'd be doing it at 33, you know. I never thought that it would actually engulf my life this much at this age when I have a wife and I have a kid, you know, and it's like, and it's, you know, I love that, but I can't stop thinking about jiu-jitsu, you know, and it's, like, weird because I never thought it would be that way. I thought it was just something I did for some time and got into, and then, like, I got deeper and deeper into it, you know.
Yeah, it has a weird way of like infiltrating every corner of life. Yeah,
the confidence you get from you talk about getting like being a scared kid. You know, like I never really got picked on much, but man, I would be kind of a scared kid too. You know, I didn't want to get. I was really afraid of altercations and stuff. But like knowing what I know now, I would just absolutely, you know, I would enjoy going to school or whatever as a young kid. I'd feel more confident and, you know, I wouldn't be scared of get my ass kicked. So
yeah.
I think jiu-jitsu is the great equalizer, really. I mean, it really is.
It's opened a lot of doors for sure. Yeah, it's helped a lot of people. It's really cool to see that.
Well, yeah, when I remember first starting at the gym where I started at, and we had a guy that actually ended up fighting in the UFC, and he was like 135 pounds, and I was like 170, and he just dumped me on my head. Tapped me out like 3 times, and I was like, I got to learn this. You know, that's what you hear from everybody, and it's just. But I think it's a lifestyle too. You know, everybody talks about jiu-jitsu lifestyle. I think that's got a whole other component to it. You know, just how it kind of engulfs your whole being.
Yeah. I mean, there's that element too. I mean, I think it's good and bad. I think it can be positive and negative. I think we've seen the negative aspects of the jiu-jitsu lifestyle kind of being like using the force for evil, right? But overall, yeah, it's really a cool, positive thing with the right instructors and the right community. Like it's a powerful tool that can be used for a lot of good.
What made you kind of want to pursue jiu-jitsu on like a larger scale? Like what was the turning point? I mean, in your book you said kind of the girlfriend situation. Was that like kind of the main thing you were just wanting to get away and get to Hawaii and just see BJ Penn?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so like I was saying before, a lot of it I got lucky of being in the right place at the right time and having a little bit of hustle to capitalize on that. I ended up in Hawaii because of the girl. And at that time was a pretty special moment in BJ Penn's career.
Sure.
So he was like the Joe Stevenson, Sean Shirk fights were around that time.
Right.
So his gym was a major hotspot. So Kendall Grove came through, Uriah Faber, Joe Zahn, on and on, all these guys that if they weren't big names at that point were on their way to be. And that's just kind of, you know, being right in the thick of that for 6 months straight and getting to interview those guys and kind of be a real journalist for a little bit. That was a big launching pad for me. I was very fortunate to have been there for all of that.
What was it like training, you know, with I know you saw occasionally you trained with BJ. I know you had fights. What was that like for you?
It was a lot of starstruck, right? I mean, it's about how you'd imagine it would be. I was terrible. He was really good.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, there was the camaraderie in the community at that gym was pretty cool. You know, everybody kind of pulling together and rooting for their guy. That was, you know, that energy drove a lot of their other fighters, and you could really feel that in the gym, like that team aspect. I've not seen it exist to like that height anywhere else, like that cohesive of everybody working together and feeling like they're a part of something special. And me just kind of being a dopey white belt from Pennsylvania, like hanging out at the ends of the cage, trying to be a part of it. So that part was really cool. The instructors were awesome. And, you know, I worked mostly with Sharudo, BJ's jiu-jitsu coach, and one of his older brothers, Jay Penn.
Yeah.
So they were, you know, so Sharudo had already fought in UFC at that time. So he'd kind of seen the fight game, and he was done with his professional MMA career at that point. So he was enough separated from it that he could be kind of like a guiding, mature voice on those kind of things, which is cool. And Jay Penn, since he was like a big brother anyways, he was kind of a big brother. Yeah, that was cool to have that atmosphere. So it was a blast. I mean, I learned a lot. I got beat up a lot. About what you expect from a jiu-jitsu gym.
How do you feel like they accepted you, you know, being a white guy from Pennsylvania? You know, there's definitely, from reading your book, it seems like there's some, maybe, I don't know if it's resistance is the right word, but, you know, you kind of have to earn your keep, I think, almost a little bit.
Yeah, so, man, we're digging back. It's been a while. So the cultural stuff that was going on in Hawaii and still going on in a lot of respects. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg's suing Hawaiians right now for land. So so like
That's
it's
crazy.
The same old problems. Those kind of cultural and racial issues. At first I thought that they were like persistent in the gym, but I don't think that's really accurate. I think they were just really behaving how any high level jiu-jitsu gym behaves. Like even now, like if I'm training at a regular gym and a new guy comes in, everybody's like, "Who's that?
Right.
What color is this belt?" They like see the belt come out of the bag, like, some color on that belt. Okay, let's test him. So turn that into a UFC gym where everyone coming in the door wants to be a professional fighter and be the next superstar, and you're the local guy that's just there 5 days a week, and then you go home to your family. Like it's nonstop people testing each other.
Okay.
So it's just like a heightened level of who's the new guy or how long are they staying?
Yeah.
Let's see what he's got.
Do you still keep in contact from anybody from the gym?
Yeah, there's a couple people. I was just back there earlier this month. Met up with a couple people. It's tough, with the distance. Every once in a while, some emails and some Facebook posts go back and forth, but not a whole ton of communication. Did a little bit of book stuff with the Penn family a few years after Cauliflower Chronicles came out, like some instructional stuff.
Yeah,
and they've always been super cool, really great to work with, super kind. They kept me out of some trouble. They looked out for me on some professional front. So it's been great. It's not like we do Sunday catch up calls like family or anything, but the relationships are still there to some degree.
What was it like? You watched BJ's last fight, I'm sure. What was that like, man? Us jiu-jitsu guys, it's like old school. We were just like. I mean, I remember watching BJ. I mean, the highlights of him just beating the shit out of people. I mean, when he was in his prime, when he was like Sean Shirk and Diego Sanchez and all that stuff, man, it was just unreal how dominant, how good he was. Like, I don't know. It was hard for me to watch, It was just hard because I was okay with him retiring. I was actually in Vegas when he got inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. I was at that. What was it, like UFC Fight Week or whatever?
Yeah,
like McGregor and Mendez fight or something. I've gone to a few UFC fights, but I wanted to go for a UFC Fight Week. I'll probably never go back though. It's just too many fanboys, man. It's just too many tap out shirts. I think
it gets strange. Yeah.
So I saw him kind of, he was up there like walking around. He had I think he had a book he was selling and stuff too at the time. But it was awesome, to see him retire. And I was like, dude, he, deserved all the accolades because he was that good. But I guess I'm getting off a tangent. But like, what was it like for you to watch him watch his last fight?
I mean, it's hard. It's not like we're best friends, but I care about the guy. I want the best for him. It's hard to watch anybody that you're a fan of lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, it's tough, and it's the sport's pretty unforgiving in that respect. It's hard to get old in the fight game. It's been a lot of miles, and he's accomplished a lot. It's hard to keep that pace, I was doing the math. I was watching him 9 years ago. Like, that's crazy to have been a professional athlete for 9 years period. And he'd already been fighting a ton before I'd ever even heard of him. So that's a lot of years. That's a tough thing to deal with.
Yeah, it was kind of rough. I think the game's evolved a lot. Look at even Ronda Rousey. She's still the same fighter she was, and you got these girls these women that know her game, and they can just do everything. They can stop takedowns. It's crazy to me how much even the women's side of the sport has really evolved. Like, I mean, these women are like insanely technical now and talented, and they know ins and outs and wrestling. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the very beginning of that age where, like, era, I guess is the better word. I feel like where the people in the sport have been preparing to be in the sport for their entire life.
Right.
Like BJ picked up jiu-jitsu when he was like wrapping up being a teenager. Right? It wasn't any of an aspiration, but now you have kids that have kind of been on that life plan. So like that's like taking a hockey player from the 80s, putting it up against a hockey player from today. Like
sure.
It's totally different. The techniques evolved a lot, yeah, but the preparation and training and everything else that goes into breeding a pro athlete, a lot of that's still kind of new, even in those big sports. I mean, we've seen every sport kind of change over the last 10 years. I feel like anybody that's in it now is kind of like the genetic freak that was meant to be in that sport.
They're almost like I know that there's people, like kids that are like homeschooled just so they can train jiu-jitsu, like put in the hours. And I was like, that's unheard of.
That's insanity to me. That is not a good career path for your kid. Nope.
Why do you say that?
If there's any parents thinking about that, not worth it. Don't put your kid on a professional jiu-jitsu track. That is not you're not going to get big returns.
Yes. Do you think it's for like money, as far as money aspect, or what do you think?
So, I think kids training jiu-jitsu is a good thing, right? I think that's a powerful thing. I think kids training jiu-jitsu to be professional child athletes, I think that's a totally different thing that we should be really critical of. Like EBI is doing like those young kid showcase matches and stuff, which is cool, but let's play that out on the long term, right? I mean, because it's very recently that we figured out that we should not have young baseball pitchers pitching as hard as they used to, right? Because turns out your elbow has a finite number of little thingies it can do before it's just done, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So now I'm talking to the physical therapist, right? So
absolutely. It's something this is actually something that in school I did research on, pitch counts for kids, and types of pitches they should or could throw. So yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, so let's put a 13-year-old kid on a mat, tell them that it's a professional thing, and hype it up as being one of the most important moments of their life, but it's probably not. And now they're stuck in a heel hook, and they have to make a very adult decision about how they're going to handle that heel, right? Could they maybe gut it out? Could they maybe escape? Could they deal with a little bit of an injury to get the win? Like those are some like really life-altering potentially decisions that you're asking a child to make.
Okay.
And that part worries me, right? So like kid jiu-jitsu competitions and stuff, fine. I think that's okay. But when you start like hyping it up where it's like, you've trained so hard for this, it's so important. Look at all your heroes. They don't tap in heel hooks. They just keep spinning until they get out. The Meow Brothers, they don't care. Twist their ankle all the way around. It's fine. Like, I don't think a 13-year-old should be in charge of making that decision, and we're starting to see a little bit of that already. I don't want to harp on EBI too much because I think that was a lot of unfortunate stuff coming together, but I think it's something we should be mindful of.
Okay.
It's worrisome. It's worrisome to me.
Where have you seen jiu-jitsu, like, as far as when you started? I mean, we've both been training probably a similar amount of time. Like, where have you seen it evolve or change? Like, where have you seen it go?
I mean, you could probably answer this question just as well as I could. So the volume of jiu-jitsu is a lot higher, right? Like, there's just more of it. Mm-hmm. In every respect, more schools, more tournaments, more promotions, more products, more gis. Like, it's just more of everything,
right?
And I think that's led to the sport aspect of jiu-jitsu changing a lot. I think probably even the last 5 years or less, we've seen sport jiu-jitsu change pretty rapidly. Where you have A, the professional aspect, but B, playing to the rules so specifically, has become a lot bigger of a thing. And I don't know what's good or bad there, what the consequence of that is, but it's changed. I think it's influenced the kinds of techniques that you see people training more. I think the Berimbolo game, the Berimbolo is a cool technique, but I think it was majorly a product of the rule set. I think 50-50 is the same thing.
Okay.
I think you see that. I think you saw those come to prominence because of the way jiu-jitsu rules and tournaments are structured. So yeah, it's a lot, and I think there's a lot of questions we have to answer as those kind of things continue to evolve.
Yeah, it's definitely, started kind of as a hand-to-hand, self-defense type thing, and then, it's definitely, obviously you're not going to go inverted, and I talked about this on the podcast, you're not going to go inverted on the street, you're not going to, I do feel, though, that the gi is appropriate for, the street, because most people, unless they're like on the beach, are going to have a collar or a sleeve or a pant grip, something, so I think it's pretty functional.
It rains almost every day in Pittsburgh, so you're probably wearing clothes.
Exactly. It's cold and So
I agree. Yeah,
but do you train mainly gi and no gi?
So yeah, I love both. As long as I'm doing jiu-jitsu, I'm pretty happy. I've probably, if you probably looked at the hours overall, I've probably done more no gi. And that's just because a couple friends of mine were on the MMA track for a while and I was helping them. So we would just get a lot of hours in no-gi. But if I'm doing jiu-jitsu, I don't care what. The gi's fun. I can do some more things with the gi, which makes it interesting.
Sure.
But I'm just happy to be training. I really don't care what outfit I'm wearing when I do it.
What do you like to, what's your training schedule? How many days or hours do you like to put in?
Well, right now it's 0.
Okay.
I had my 4th knee surgery recently.
Awesome. We can get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was fun. That was fantastic. I have my own parking space now at my orthopedic surgery. So I've not been able to train for the last year or so. Since it's the same kind of injury over and over. When I first started seeing the surgeon, it was, you're a young guy, you're an athlete, you're on the short recovery timeline, get you back in. Now they're like, okay, number 4, we're going to put you on the long recovery timeline and make sure that you everything heals up right, do the extra physical therapy. So it'll be a year in April since I got hurt. So I've been doing a whole lot of nothing.
Can you elaborate on what type of injury you sustained or what you've had done? We can kind of get into that. This is my wheelhouse.
All 4 of my knee injuries were, if I get the terminology right, medial meniscus tears.
Yes.
They were bucket handle tears.
Yes.
So they were on the inside of the meniscus, and then it would fold over, and then my knee would lock at 90 degrees. So in my right knee, I've had that operated on 3 times. There's not much cartilage left there. They tried repairing it twice, and the 3rd time I was just like, I can't do it anymore. Just get rid of it. On my left knee, they repaired that one, so longer recovery to get the cartilage. So done those, and then mixed in there, I had a hernia surgery 2 years ago.
Okay.
So that was fun as well. Your intestines start kind of coming through.
Yeah, for sure.
That one was, I guess it's a fairly routine thing that happens.
Like a sports hernia? Was that it's kind of like a sports hernia?
Yeah, inguinal. So usually, I guess and again, I'm talking to a professional, so correct me as soon as I'm wrong here. So your intestinal lining is more like a mesh, right?
Yeah.
Versus like a solid sheet. So usually the intestine comes through a hole in that mesh. My lining had actually disconnected from my hip and everything was popping out the bottom of it. It was really really in my groin. They told me it was one of the worst hernias they'd seen.
Okay.
So I got a ton of medical mesh in me now to hold that in place. The surgeon's really cocky. He dared me to tear it. He's like, I don't think you can, so give it a shot.
No, not to prove you wrong, buddy.
Yeah, I was like, I'm good. Let me show you some of the ways people bend me up. I think they could probably find a way to pop that. So that's been the short of my the short list of my injuries, and I've had all the other usual bumps, scrapes, broken my nose, popped elbow capsules, stove fingers, have turf toe, back problems, neck problems. The list of what it's like to be in this for 10 years.
Did your hernia occur with jiu-jitsu, during jiu-jitsu?
Probably.
Okay. You didn't have an incident where...
No, it wasn't like, oh God, my intestines. I was in the shower and I looked down and I was like, that's weird. Yeah.
Not what I want poking out.
Yeah. And it's like I called like my general physician,
Sure.
and she was like, you should probably not do anything to get that looked at. I'm like, okay.
It's not supposed to be there.
Yeah. And I mean, so a lot of this, I know people have been training for 10 years that their list of injuries is far shorter. Genetically, my knees are probably just worse than a lot of people's. They've had to like reshape the bone in a couple places, like trying to figure out what might be making it more susceptible to tearing. So all that good luck I was talking about before did not extend to my overall athleticism, unfortunately.
Yeah. How does that I've been injured before. I've had some fractures. I've had a forearm fracture. It was fun. It was jiu-jitsu related too. I didn't take care of it probably like I should have. But how was that for you, like mentally, not being able to be on the mats? Like, how'd that affect you?
I mean, about the way you'd expect. I mean, it sucks. The other drawback of doing this professionally is it's even more part of my identity, right? So, like, if you take away jiu-jitsu, I have all the big questions of, like, where am I without jiu-jitsu? It's been part of my life for 10 years, blah, 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 my philosophy and all this other kind of BS. Then on top of it, it's like, well, if I ever needed to quit, what would that mean for my career? Like, could I actually quit jiu-jitsu? And then in that way, it kind of starts to be its own sort of prison, right? Because it's like, well, if I walk away from jiu-jitsu, I probably can't do instructions anymore. I probably can't blog about it. Like all these things that I use to take care of my family, like I'd probably have to give those things up. And because, like, how can you be a jiu-jitsu writer if you don't train? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
There's a lot of them out there, man.
Well, yeah, I'm trying not to be in that crowd, of jiu-jitsu writers. So that part gets hard. The deep philosophical, existential questions that a liberal arts major, as you might expect, would have a lot of. So, I mean, it just sucks. It's probably no less miserable than anybody else that's been hurt and not been able to train.
What are you doing? Like, what was kind of your recovery like from just any of the surgeries? What did you do to recover?
It's just your typical physical therapy. So it was really important to me that I worked with a physical therapist so I gave up on trying to find a physical therapist near me that understood jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to find anybody that's working with jiu-jitsu athletes. It's just too new around here. So I looked for someone that worked with wrestlers. So that was always my thing. Yeah. So you understand what wrestling is? Okay, cool. Then I'm happy with you being my physical therapist. So it was a lot of your typical like stability building, but also understanding so the biggest challenge for me was always getting back to turtle, like just being able to do the full bend, heel to butt. So just like really working on that. Whereas the average person that mostly just needs to walk and maybe bend over, pick something up. Yeah, eventually it'll work out the scar tissue or whatever. Fine. But for me, that was like an active part of the recovery plan. This last time around, I was on a different insurance, so I couldn't go back to the guy I went to for the first 3. That turned into like a huge. It should have been like a reality show star search to find my next physical therapist because I went through a couple. You know how it is when it's like a physical therapist is really engaged and they're trying to get you back to what you want to do. Right. Versus like, hey, lift your leg up 10 times, and they're talking about like their lawn with some other person, and then they come back. Oh, did you count to 10? Okay, great. All right, you're done. See you later. Yeah. It's just finding somebody really engaged and understood how important it was to be active. And that's why I've always liked my surgeon too, because he's like a triathlete that he knows that quitting is not on the table as much as he would like me to. Yeah. So it's always, we got to get you back. These are your options. And I really appreciate and respect people that do that.
Have you thought about other options like stem cell injections, other avenues for like treatment?
Listen, man, if you want to point me to someone that'll inject stem cells into my knee, I'm all on board of it. Like
I listen to Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience. He's got some guy in Vegas. I've got his name somewhere. I can find it.
I'll figure out how to make my health insurance pay for it.
Man,
because the cost is prohibitive, right? But at this point, like, I will try anything. I'm even desperate enough that, like, crazy things like growth hormones and stuff like that, like, if it can mean that I could train for an extra 5 years of my life, desperate. I have no aspirations of being a professional competitor or anything. Just keep me on the mat. So if you want to inject, like, stem cells into my knee or plasma shaking or whatever other crazy things.
Yeah, PRP, which is like
talking about, I will do all of it. I've just not had the access to those kind of things, unfortunately.
The funny thing to me, we talking about insurance, is that, you know, it may only cost probably cheaper to get like a stem cell injection than it would to get, you know, have you put under, admitted to the hospital, all the tests and all the medication and shit they go in. They, you know, I don't know the exact prices, but I feel like maybe it's our healthcare system not exactly understanding the needs, or maybe drawing out more money. I don't know. That's just me. I know therapy is great and it's beneficial, but if there's something inherently wrong in your knee structurally, therapies might help some, but it's not going to probably get you to where high level bending and torquing on your knee is required if you're getting into butterfly or if you're getting, you know, into rubber guard, you know, all those things.
I don't do triangle chokes anymore.
Okay.
My knees can't, like, if someone starts kind of thrashing and really wants out, my knee's going to go before they actually technically escape. My knee will just give out on me. Butterfly guard's been okay as long as I don't get too aggressive. Like, I really love butterfly guard. I don't know if I give up my butterfly guard.
Well, you know, when you're sweeping somebody and your leg is kind of under, you are putting some, you know, you're rolling to your side, so you're putting some of that lateral torque on your knee. You are torquing some of that meniscus too.
Yeah. I've worked really hard to make the elevation part of the butterfly guard. So the elevation's important to me, but it's the very last. So, like, there's like the old school butterfly guard where they want you to, like, rock back and lift them up and then sweep, like the old school way they taught it. I don't do anything like that. It's all off balance first, and then the very last part of it's a little flick with the foot, like, that's as much as I can take. I can't cheese ball any of it. If the sweep if everything else is not perfect, I'm not getting it. So I'm really obsessed with making it perfect. Like, that's, like, if we want to talk about butterfly guard, better strap in for another 2 hours, because I'm like,
that's awesome, man.
I love butterfly guard.
Is that one of your go-tos? Like, is that what you like to play?
Yeah. So I did a book with Marcelo a few years ago. And that got me on the arm drag butterfly guard train.
That was, what was it? Advanced?
Yeah.
I have that book too. Advanced Jiu-Jitsu Techniques.
I appreciate you picking it up.
Dude, it's fucking awesome.
You donated $1 to the Marshall Carper Fund. I appreciate it.
Hopefully it goes towards you getting some better knees, man.
Yeah, right.
No, man, you know, Marcelo is one of those guys, like, holy shit, man. If I could think of, like, 5 people, he's my top 5. He's got to be. Like, unreal. Unreal, that guy. Like, doesn't do anything else except jiu-jitsu. Doesn't do any kind of other training. Like, I talked to Bernardo Faria, who trains with Marcelo. Right. He did a seminar at our gym, and then I kind of kept in contact. And I did a podcast with him, and he's like, I've been injured all the time, but I was like, so what does Marcelo do? He's like, he just trains 2 days a week, and he murders everybody. It's crazy. That's genetics. That's, like, freakishly, you know. I mean, yeah, to get better at jiu-jitsu, you do jiu-jitsu, but you also have to do a lot of other stuff, you know, like maintain your body, and it's just crazy to me that's all he does.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, perfect blends of, like, his head's, like, the way his brain works is perfectly programmed for it. His body composition, his durability is fortunately really good for it. I mean, he's beat up. He's an older guy now, but yeah, I've looked up to him for a long time. So that's where my butterfly guard session came from. I started doing the arm drags, and that just naturally kind of played into his butterfly guard game. So that's where I started.
It's probably one of the best people to learn from, I'd say. Holy hell, man.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot of direct, unfortunately. It was a lot of working on his stuff and trying to figure out how to explain it.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, okay, well, I need to go mess this up for a while. Go to the gym for an hour. My cat's being out. Hang on.
Oh, it's all right, man.
Go to the gym for a while and like troubleshoot it, figure out how does it feel to better write about it in his books. You know,
How did you get in contact with Marcelo? Like, how did that go down?
the same company that published Cauliflower Chronicles, Victory Belt.
Yep.
At the time, they were like the technique publisher.
Yeah.
Anybody that published a book about jiu-jitsu technique was probably doing it through Victory Belts. Like Eddie Bravo got his start with them, and I'm trying to think. The Caro did a book with them. Randy Couture. Yeah, like they've done a ton of books.
I've got a bunch of, and dude, those books are so expensive now because they're out of print.
Yeah,
They're insane. I got the X-Guard book, and I've got the Advanced Jiu-Jitsu, and one of them's like, I paid like $100 for it, and it's like got water spots in it, and I'm like, I love that book though, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great company. Erich Krause and Glenn Cordoza like gave me an opportunity there. So I don't really know the business decision. I suspect they're just making a lot more money on the paleo diet books that they do.
Great.
They're just pumping out a ton of those. Like, I can't blame you, but I want to write about jiu-jitsu, so that's why I started Artechoke and been doing that.
Yeah, and that's like it's like a marketing company?
So
or it's like a media company or something?
I have 3 businesses. I have a content marketing agency, which is Carper Communications.
Okay.
I have Artechoke Media, which is basically a jiu-jitsu publishing house. It's my excuse to work on jiu-jitsu projects.
That's awesome.
We're pretty small time. We do 1 or 2 products a year, less when I'm hurt because I can't lug camera equipment around. That's actually what you see behind me is our studio.
That's awesome, man.
I got to kind of like fold it off. So, yeah, we do jiu-jitsu books. And then I just got involved with a video game company. So we're doing some video game stuff.
Right. I saw y'all did some kind of video. Like, was it like a phone game or something? Like for a phone?
Yeah. So the guys, we did a Dojo Storm was the video game. It's like a spoof, real like tongue in cheek. Just as like a fun little side project we did through Indiegogo, got it crowdfunded. We did that on, so we hired these guys to make it. And after they were done, they were like, we never really made money on a game before. Let's work with you more.
That's awesome.
We can do other stuff. So we've been that's been a fun side project. The marketing work is the bread and butter. Jiu-jitsu stuff's the passion, and I get to just do wild, crazy stuff on the video game front. So that's pretty fun.
So what kind of, like, me being, I have a channel, I have a YouTube channel, I have a website, a podcast. So I'm just kind of, I just honestly, I started the podcast because like it's an awesome opportunity to talk to people. Like even my head coach, Nick Chewy Albin, man, he's like, I love just talking to him and just picking his brain and just talking to people. I think it's been such an awesome opportunity. And jiu-jitsu is one of those sports where it's still accessible. Like, I mean, I reach out to people and some people get back to me and some people don't. I think if you're worth their time or whatever, or they want to, talk to you, they will. But it's so accessible. Like, you could be in a tournament and, anybody could be there. Lovato, I mean, anybody, I went did the Master Worlds, and I was like seeing all these crazy people there. And I was like, Andre Galval's walking around coaching. I'm like, this is crazy to me, just it's so accessible.
Yeah, there's no other sport like that. Absolutely not. Yeah. Like, you can't just walk into LeBron's gym and
exactly. Everybody says that.
Like, it never happened. Yeah.
It's so accessible, and like I would say, so many of the people are so nice. Like honestly, me talking to you, I was like, it was a shot in the dark. Honestly, I was like, man, I read his book, I enjoyed it. He does jiu-jitsu stuff. It'd be cool to talk to him, and man, you were. It's I appreciate it, and you're very humble. Honestly, that's what you are, man. I'm not like honestly like most people would be like, I did this, and this. I'm doing this, and I appreciate how you present everything you've accomplished, because I think you have accomplished a lot. And jiu-jitsu's
thank you.
A small community, and like for me, like if I could learn anything technique related or how to grow and form more people, that's like, I think that's where you're really good at. So how is your marketing? Like, how do you go about that stuff?
Okay. So let's kind of look at your podcast as the example, right? So consistency is really huge. Pretty much every successful podcast out there has been a grind of getting an episode out a week and just doing it and doing it and doing it, no matter how much it sucks. If you look at every successful, even like YouTube channels and things like that, it just takes a lot of doing it every week consistently, cranking it out, even when it's miserable. I particularly struggle on that front with my own stuff. Like, it's hard for me to be consistent. But all the best people are awesome at that. So that's a big part of it. You put me on the spot. So you got your web presence, being involved in the bigger Jiu-Jitsu communities, kind of being a fixture in those places. So Reddit BJJ is pretty big at this point. I don't know if you hang out on Reddit very much.
Nope, not much.
So the BJJ subreddit is pretty awesome. That's a great way to so the more you're active in the community, the more people are receptive to you sharing your own stuff. Yeah. And then they support it because you're active in the community, kind of creates that synergy.
Sure.
That's where a lot of the grassroots organic stuff comes from. And then the cool thing about the podcast is every person you interview shares it with their audience. So the bigger interviews you get, the more people get to see your podcast, and maybe you keep 3% of those, maybe 2% of those people that listen to it. I mean, that's just the reality of digital marketing. Unfortunately, you start with really big numbers, and then you end up with really small numbers at the end of all the stages of your funnel. Right. Then just keep grinding it out. There's some great people out there that are big advocates for content creators. I've been really lucky to have Paul Moran of Open Mat Radio. He's another great Jiu-Jitsu podcast host. Wrote my stuff, plugging me, and I plug his stuff. So those kind of like partnerships go a long way. Cool. Yeah. So like all those little organic things really, really help. Jiu-Jitsu, especially like straight pure advertising, in a lot of cases doesn't really get the job done. It's just being in the community, being active in the community and plugging away. And eventually people start to recognize you, get to notice you. I mean, I worked at a website called Lockflow. It's not around anymore, but I worked at Lockflow for 3 or 4 years. I was doing an article a day at Lockflow, just hanging out in the Lockflow forums. And to this day, some of the biggest supporters that I have are people that I met because I posted in a weird little jiu-jitsu forum. Yeah. And that's just the cool thing about jiu-jitsu is you have those opportunities, right? Because it is so small.
Yeah. What's your goal? Like as far as your career, like moving forward, what do you want to accomplish now?
Yeah, that's hard.
Well, let's start with physically. I'm a physical therapist. You've got knee injuries. Where do you want to get to? What's your goal as far as getting back on the mats? Like, what do you want to do?
I'm at the point now where if I could roll once or twice a week, I'd be stoked. I've spent probably more time off the mat than on the mat in the last 4 or 5 years just because of being hurt all the time. And people are always like, oh, are you training crazy? Or you not this? Like, no. It's like my last knee injury, I knelt down to stretch and it popped out and it folded and it locked up. Like, it's not like I was gutting out a heel hook being a hero or anything. That's the way most of my injuries are. One of my other knee injuries, I was in an office picking up a laptop and it popped out and locked up. Like, I wasn't even on a mat. I mean, it's probably from jiu-jitsu at some point, but like I gave up training hard and crazy like 6 or 7 years ago when I started to realize I was falling apart. So at this point, like I've backed out of, like I was teaching 3 or 4 times a week. I've backed out of doing that. I've backed out of any kind of formal school training at this point. Like if I train, it's going to be some open mats here and there with some buddies. Like I'm just hanging on by my fingernails at this point for jiu-jitsu physically. And I'm okay with that. I've come to terms with it. Like I'm not going to be a mega instructor or run a gym but if I can, like, so honestly, man, a good friend of mine, he's a longtime wrestling coach. He's 5 or 6 years older than me. He's my best friend, best man at my wedding. And I'm never happier than when I'm in an empty wrestling room and it's just me and him rolling around for an hour and a half. Like, that's it. That's all I want. That's all I need. And learn something new here and there in the process. Like, I'm content if I'm physically able to do that a couple times a month, a couple times a week. So jiu-jitsu wise, that's my goal, is do something that's pretty minimum. Professionally, I want to take care of my family, pay my mortgage. I don't have any big aspirations. Published my first book when I was 23, and I had like another existential crisis. I have a lot of those. Where it's like, I worked really hard to get to that point. Now what? And I've never answered that question. Like, I don't know what the next big goal is that I want to accomplish beyond make sure that my family's taken care of, and like my wife is healthy and we have a place to sleep. Like, I'm pretty stoked about that. Like, that makes me pretty happy.
Yeah.
Professionally, that's about it. So I'm trying to do a little bit more good professionally, like more volunteer stuff, some environmental stuff locally that I'm involved in. Like, that stuff means a lot to me. I don't care too much about like being rich or making a ton of money. I just don't want the bank to take my house, and that's that's about where I'm at. So everything else that I do professionally is either just to pay the bills or because it's interesting to me. I'm blessed to be in a position where I can say no to work that I don't want or doesn't align with my values. So I get to do a lot of weird projects like make video games or build a studio in my house.
That's
and
awesome.
make 2 books. Like, I'm good, man. I'm cool. Like, if I'm at this level for the rest of my life, that'll be gravy for me. I'll be stoked.
Where do you see yourself in, like, where do you fall into jiu-jitsu? Like, where do you see your place in, like, jiu-jitsu?
I really enjoy, like, I'm obsessed with content, right? Like, I like making stuff for other people to digest and enjoy, like writing a blog post and sending it out in the world and someone going, hey, that impacted me in some positive way. Like, that's the coolest feeling for me. So doing that with instructionals is a lot of fun because I get to learn a lot in the process and work with some cool people. Yeah. So doing a book with instructors and helping the sport grow in some way because of that kind of work. If that could be my role, I'd be pretty happy.
How do you kind of go about like finding new things to work on, like new books, or where do you get the ideas from that? Or
I don't have any shortage of ideas. I got all kinds of stuff that I want to do. I have too much stuff that I want to do to the point that I have to like triage it, be like, this is probably the worthwhile one to do. I mean, I run 3 businesses. Like, that's stupid. Every business book you read tells you that's a dumb idea. Like, you should not be doing that. You should be focusing on your one business so you do it really well. And I've narrowed it down to 3. So that's good. that's
and 2 of them are jiu-jitsu related?
The one is purely jiu-jitsu. The video game company did a jiu-jitsu video game. So, and marketing, I guess, you know what? I can't escape jiu-jitsu. They all have done a little bit of jiu-jitsu. Like, there's a couple jiu-jitsu brands that I work with, and I've worked with some jiu-jitsu gyms. So on the marketing side, so I don't ever really get away from it. I've got all kinds of stuff that I'd love to play with. It's just, it's my challenge is kind of controlling myself so I actually get some of them done. Yeah. Versus kind of jumping. Like, VR is cool as hell, man. Like, what can we do with VR? Like, what would VR jiu-jitsu experience looks like? Like, I see these 360-degree cameras, and I'm just like, oh, like it's a problem because
you could do it, man, with your broken knees. You could do VR jiu-jitsu.
That's how I do jiu-jitsu. I'd like log into the holodeck or whatever. And that's how I train. So I'm curious about everything. Like, I don't have a hard time finding stuff that excites me. Like, there's so much cool shit in the world. Like, it's not hard to get jazzed and excited about something. It's just picking what to work on.
Right. Who have you worked with that maybe like really surprised you, or who do you want to work with that maybe you haven't had a chance to yet? Whether it's jiu-jitsu related or not. Like,
So I love Doctors Without Borders. I love what they're doing. So like that kind of stuff really, like that's important to me. That kind of stuff's important. In the jiu-jitsu world, I'm kind of over like the latest and greatest jiu-jitsu star thing.
okay.
Like I'm not excited about meeting some crazy black belt that won a bunch of tournaments. Like I don't get really pumped about that. I mean, I can still turn on a UFC card and point out somebody that choked me or punched me in the face.
That's awesome.
Like it's, and part of that is because I've been in that side of the sport long enough that I've seen how human all those guys are. So typically the fighters that everybody thinks are the coolest and the funniest and the greatest tend to be the biggest assholes when you have to work with them in person. Like they tend not to be the greatest human beings. And a lot of times the fighters that don't get the attention or people think they're jerks are actually the more legitimate people.
Okay.
That's not true in all cases, but that like starstruck part where like, you know, like I don't care who won Worlds. I don't care who won the ADCC. I like the matches. It's fun.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, oh, I got to work with Gary Tonin because he's winning everything. Like, you know, maybe we work together, maybe we don't. At this point, I really just want to work with great instructors, whether they're famous or not. And that's kind of what Artechoke's vision is just finding great instructors.
Yeah.
And that's just a lot of word of mouth. Like, yeah. So, like, we did a book with a guy named Jeff Rockwell.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Jeff Rockwell?
The name kind of sounds familiar. I'm not sure I know who that is.
Yep. See, that's what gets me excited, right?
That's cool.
So Jeff, been pretty active on like the underground online scene and through my business partner, Matt Kirtley, who runs Asapian.com.
Yeah.
Like
I've been on that website before.
Him and Matt had basically been like online super friends for years, just sharing technique videos back and forth, never really training together because they had met through other online super friends. So we started looking at doing a book. It's like if we take out the super famous part, who were some of the best instructors you know? And when someone like Matt Kirtley, he's a Eduardo de Lima black belt, really accomplished jiu-jitsu writer. Like I've really looked up to him for jiu-jitsu for a really long time. When someone like Matt Kirtley says, you know what, the only person that's had more of an impact on my jiu-jitsu than my primary instructor was Jeff Rockwell. That's like that guy. That's the guy. That's the guy that I want to work with. Somebody you never trained with in person, but just because he shared some videos with you and you talk theory back and forth, it changed your jiu-jitsu that much. Like those are the kind of people in the sport, and there's hundreds of them. They're just hidden in these schools because they're not big time competitors. They're not running a mega gym. They're like these savants, not the right word, but just like these really intelligent, brilliant instructors and thinkers in the sport. But the way the sport's set up right now, they don't get a lot of attention.
So I got somebody for you.
Yeah?
My head coach, man. Nick Chewy Albin, 100%.
Okay. Where are you guys located?
We're in Louisville, Kentucky.
You're in Kentucky.
Yeah.
We can swing Kentucky.
So let me tell you why. I'll just tell you why, man. He's about a year or two younger than I am. Been training a long time, and like, man, he teaches the kids classes. He runs the gym. He does jiu-jitsu.net. You can check that out. He's got like a lot of instructionals and websites, man. And he showed me something yesterday.
So jiu-jitsu.net?
Jiu-jitsu.
Oh, Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, his name is Nick Chewy Albin.
I thought you were talking about Dan Lucart's.
Nope.
Okay, I'm looking it up right now. Jiu-jitsu.net. Right.
So this is what he showed me yesterday. We were talking, because he's really helped me out with it. He's kind of done a lot. He's on like Watch BJJ, a lot of those kind of websites where his videos pop up all the time. And like he was showing me a video yesterday after training of a dad sent a video of his little kid. It was like from Britain somewhere, England, doing his like heavy bag drills. Like there's like a heavy bag, like a grappling dummy kind of thing, and he's doing the movement drills. And Chewy's like, "Look at that, man! Look at that!" And I was like,
cool.
"Dude, that's fucking awesome."
That's really cool.
I was like, I'm telling you, man, he's awesome. He's really influenced me, and he's a guy that's never, like, he's always available, always accessible, and he's just a great coach, man. And he's like a brother to me, honestly. I've been training with him for probably 6-7 years now out of my 9. And he's really, man, always been awesome to me, man. And I just
I'm downloading his ebook now.
There you go.
Check it out.
Check him out, man. He's I actually did a podcast with him. I just put it out today. It's like, so check out my podcast. I've done he's busy as hell, and he's done like 5-6 podcasts with me, and those take like an hour and a half, 2 hours,
Yep.
And I was like, he never says no, and I was like, man, I appreciate that. And I'm sure he'll hear this and think I'm like a little fanboy or something, but he really, he's a big part of why I'm as invested in jiu-jitsu as I am now, just because our gym, the way that it runs, and the environment that we have is pretty awesome. So
that's cool.
Yeah, man, he's awesome. He does the kids classes and stuff. And sometimes I sit back and I wonder, like, why are you still doing these kids classes, man? It's because he loves it.
Yeah,
it's what he does. And so he's definitely, dude. I'm telling you, he's definitely the guy for you to talk to.
I'm checking it out.
Honestly, probably the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in Louisville, and maybe even Kentucky. I mean, he has won some stuff. He's obviously, we did the Master Worlds last year. He did the Master Worlds. I didn't do too great. He was one match away from going against Lovato Jr., so it was awesome. But
he's already writing books. Like, that's good. That's a big plus.
He's been at it for a while. Like you said, he's been grinding. He's been, and he's kind of been, when I've talked to him about doing, podcast or website, he's kind of the one that's kind of been like, yeah, man, do this. Like, we've gone out to lunch, and he's like, this is what I've done. And, he started
really cool.
100 views, whatever,
Yeah.
Started small time. That's how everybody starts.
Yeah.
And, I did a video with him, and I got like 30, 40 followers on YouTube, and I was like pumped as hell, and he's like, yeah, it's good. But, he took the time to kind of help me out, and he's just a good dude. So
I love it.
Yeah, man. I'll get you his info if you want. I'll send it to you.
I got it already. I got it right here.
Sweet, man. I was going to ask you, how did you go about, I'm still curious about Marcelo. How did you go about working with him? And what was that like?
So I came into the project. So it was a weird situation. The photos had been done, and like the outline for the book had been laid out. But Glenn Cordoza, who's like their main jiu-jitsu writer at the time, he just had a ton of projects. Glenn's a phenomenal writer. He did the Kelly Starrett book.
Supple Leopard.
Glenn co-authored that. So like Glenn's been on some big stuff. I really look up to Glenn. So he was just really busy, and they're like, hey, do you want to pinch hit, jump in on this? And I was like, yeah.
That's awesome,
yeah,
dude.
Of course. So they ended up having to reshoot all the photos. So I did a lot of the book from phone calls and from videos that they shot in the next photo shoot.
Yeah.
Like he just like asked Marcelo a bunch of questions about techniques. So it was there was not any like in-person training time. It was a lot of like try to get a download from Marcelo's brain and then organize that into a book, which is the way most of those books end up working. You're looking at the fighter to be the expert, and then it's the author's job to kind of take that big brain dump and turn it into step 1, step 2, step 3, and pick out the nuggets that are really insightful for people. Everybody thinks that like I got to be best friends with Marcelo, and that's really not how. It's really not how.
Man, but you get to work with somebody that's like a legend in the sport. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So one thing that's been kind of in my head, your knee injuries. How can I help you? What do you have any questions for me on like, I am a physical therapist that has trained jiu-jitsu, does train jiu-jitsu. What do you have for me? And like, that's why I put out the videos so I can help people, get back on the mats or stay on the mats.
So, if you have any suggestions for preventing meniscus tears.
Do you use any kind of braces or anything like that? Do you use anything when you're grappling?
So, since all my tears come from, it's always deep bend.
Uh-huh.
It's always deep bend when there's a problem. I was told that the fabric of the brace, like sometimes even like having my gi pant fold up inside my knee, like that gives me like weird like calf crusher kind of pressure. Pressure, you know what I mean? Like it feels like there's like wedged in the joint. Like I feel really sensitive about that kind of sensation.
Okay.
So wearing a knee brace has actually made me feel less stable.
Okay.
For those reasons. I mean, this is all just, like I said, I'm up for solutions.
Just your feel, yeah.
Yeah, so having something in there, like even if it's just a knee brace folded up, like I feel like that's not.
That pressures.
Yeah.
Have you thought about maybe like a hinged knee brace where you actually won't let you completely fold down on your knee? Like something that might limit. They do have some with like hinges on both sides that that may limit your like end range flexion or end range bending.
Yeah, I mean I've tried them. They felt kind of miserable,
bulky.
Yeah. I mean, and also like I'm like banging a metal object off my training partners.
But we've had guys that had some meniscus tears in the gym, and there's some decent braces. I contacted the company in Bauerfeind, and they're actually a German company, and they sent me some braces just to sample and review, and I got the real basic ones they have, and they're pretty nice, but they have some that are a little bit bulkier, that not necessarily bulkier, but have more stability to them. The good thing about their braces, I feel like they stay on. That was the big selling point to me, was like you measure the thigh and the leg, and they actually stay on. Like during grappling, you'll get braces and they won't stay. Like they'll slide, they'll be down on your ankle by the time you're done grappling, So they've got some good. I haven't tried. I may reach out to them and see if I can try one that's got the hinges and stuff and see how it does. The one that I have is more soft. It does have some like lateral and medial supports. It's got like something for your patella, for your kneecap to cushion. They're probably the best knee braces for jiu-jitsu or grappling that I've tried, for sure. They might be worth a shot. Again,
I'll try anything.
You have to limit your end range motion.
Dude, I was ordering what was it, Super Sissus? It was some like supplement. I was ordering like crazy stuff from India that was supposed to help with like joint recovery, diving deep into those bodybuilding forums where they start recommending really odd stuff. Cause I'll give it a shot for sure.
I mean, that's something I'll do a review on. I'll see if they'll send me if I can get a brace from them, and I'll do a review for sure. And I'll tag you in it, and I'll see if
let me know
if that end range flexion is something that limits you. That something with stability on the sides, and it's pretty well cushioned. So you're not really going to be killing your partners. I mean, there's different braces out there that probably you can cushion for sure. But like if your goal is to get on the mats, like you got to figure out what can you do different. You got to look at balance, stability. Do you do any kind of weightlifting or?
Yeah, that's what I'm back on now. Matt Kirtley, Aesopian again. He's been on like the mobility train.
Sure.
So like functional movements and stuff like that. So he's kind of got me looking. I'm doing like some really basic kettlebell stuff. When I stopped competing, which is like when I was a blue belt, I was like, I hate lifting weights. I'm just not going to do it anymore. And that was probably a mistake. I'm getting back into the strength training stuff because that's also supposedly important.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're trying to use those muscles and to kind of stabilize the knee. Muscles above and below is super important to protect your knee. I mean, you don't move like a robot forward and side to side. You move in complex. You're rotating and you're twisting and you're pushing off different angles. So, I mean, I'd say like working simple plane, like single plane stuff, forward and back or side to side, and then you start doing diagonals. I mean, but in a controlled environment, that's how you do it. That's a lot of that is, and when you don't do it, you have a lot of like neuromuscular kind of. There's a lot of feedback that your tendons and ligaments give you. So when you don't do those things, your muscles and ligaments don't give you that feedback. It doesn't tell your brain this isn't supposed to move this way or this muscle needs to fire at this time. So just doing it more in a controlled environment is the way that I would tell people to get back to grappling or jiu-jitsu. Drilling with people, doing simple drilling, drilling with people that you trust, flow rolling people that their movements and they know your movements and they're not going to spaz out on you. Obviously, as an upper belt, that you enrolled upper belts that understand your injury and what could tweak it and not tweak it. I mean, there's always a chance that you could bend over and freaking blow your knee out, which you've done before, which is insane. But you know what? It sounds like jiu-jitsu may have been the result of that or the cause of that, but it didn't happen in jiu-jitsu. So it's like,
yeah, I mean, it's weird. I mean,
maybe
it's
you're
like,
safe.
So some people get freaked out when I tell them how much I've been hurt, but it's not really. I mean, I don't think jiu-jitsu is kind to your body in any respect. I think anybody that talks about jiu-jitsu being like actually like a healthy hobby is kind of crazy because it's hard on your joints.
I disagree, man. I think it can be a healthy hobby, and you just have to figure out the right formula. You have to figure out the right
I guess
blend.
Every black belt I've met is just like a Quasimodo mess of injuries. But I think that's just living an active lifestyle,
exactly.
Right? Like, I mean, so jiu-jitsu is like this holy grail of like your joints will be okay. Probably not.
Not necessarily.
Like, that's where I'm at. Yeah.
But the thing is, like, for example, if you take somebody that hasn't done jiu-jitsu ever, and you do a double leg takedown on them, they'll probably end up being sore or their neck will hurt because they're not used to it. What happens is your body, I think, learns from taking that impact. Your body gets acclimated to you build muscle memory, you build kind of strength, and your body kind of gets used to absorbing those kind of punishments, which I think is a gift and a curse,
Yeah.
I think if you do takedowns all day, every day, 5 days, or 5 days a week, you're gonna get hurt eventually. But if you do takedowns 1 day a week, and then you do different type of drilling, and then you supplement that with a good diet and rest, and yoga, trying yoga, that might be good for you. I think that's something I want to get into more. I think it's super beneficial for flexibility.
Yeah, my problem is like this like same problem I have with lifting weights. This is my problem in life in general. I just get bored really fast. So like if I'm lifting weights, I'm like 1, 2, okay, I'm over it.
What do you want? What's your goal though? Yeah. I mean, if your goal is to get back to jiu-jitsu, would you not want to do 100%. Everything like
100%? You're 100%
I think
correct.
you can do it, man. I feel like being a PT, like that's it's the perfect. It's like a challenge to me almost to think about, because my jiu-jitsu instructor, Chewy, he had a meniscus tear, and I kind of, helped him through it. Had some other guys with meniscus tears. I've helped them through that, man. I feel like that's kind of where I want to do. Like, I think that's the challenge for me as a medical professional. Like, what would I want to do? Yeah, I want to be on the freaking mats, I think you can. I almost feel like you're kind of downplaying. I think you've told yourself it's okay to not do jiu-jitsu, but I think it's what you want, honestly, man. And I don't know you very well. I don't, man. But honestly, like
that stuff, if I want any kind of future, is stuff that I need to do.
If you love jiu-jitsu, man, if that's like in your blood and kind of like the way I love jiu-jitsu now, like. I can't see myself. I could see myself 90 years old in a damn wheelchair. Man, if you got guys that like are paralyzed from the waist down doing jiu-jitsu, what the hell is a knee or two? Not having a couple knees, we'll just lock them, we'll just tape them down.
Yeah, good call, man.
You get you like a sponsorship with like a tape company, man. Just wrap your shit up.
Yeah, I use a lot of tape.
Do you wrap your knees? Do you tape your knees?
No, I tape my fingers and my toes.
I think there could be some some good ways to tape your knees and stuff for stability. It does take time.
Yeah.
That's expensive and time consuming, but say today's my hard rolling day or my hard drilling day.
Cheaper than a surgery. Yeah.
Maybe short term. Long term, man, that tape's expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like I honestly, I'd love to help you out if there's any way I can. I think it's I appreciate you being so open to being on the podcast. I feel like that's kind of the whole goal of what I'm doing. Like I feel like it's the whole purpose. Like if I can help some people be on the mats that can't or feel like they can't. I know what that's like, man. I know it's like rolling with one arm in your belt, and you got white belts coming after you because they see that. And but yeah, man, knees are one of those joints that you're gonna need them the rest of your life. But I think you can do it. I think we gotta think about other things you got to do. You can't do the same thing. If you don't like to work, if you don't like to exercise or do corrective exercise, you're probably just going to have the same problem over and over. And it's probably going to be worse.
100% correct.
So,
yeah.
I'm going to have to show you some stuff, man. Do what?
Yeah. Yeah, this has been great. Yeah, I mean, we should definitely keep in touch for sure. I definitely want to pick your brain.
Why don't you what questions, what can I show you? I'll do a video for you, man.
Let's start with the basics. 101 knee maintenance for meniscus prone individuals. I'd be cool with that. That's a great place
I've got videos for that already, dude.
Yep. Send me an email. I'll check them out.
No, but I just let me ask this. How do you feel like I can grow? Like, what would you recommend for me to do to grow what I do in jiu-jitsu? Because I don't think I've seen a lot of specifically physical therapists that are jiu-jitsu. I think I've seen one or two maybe physical therapists that are jiu-jitsu practitioners that kind of – how would you recommend for me to reach out to more people or help more people?
Well, I think all the community-based stuff we talked about before is a solid place to start. Jumping on to some of the current news, being a bit more reactive to when the Meow Brothers hand picture came out. Remember that? They showed they did the picture like this. They saw how they look like their hands were 90 years old.
Yeah, mangled hands. Yeah.
It's when something like that pops up, you can be like, hey, this is some stuff you should think about if you don't want meow hands.
Meow.
Because you're going to be on your way to that. So that kind of stuff being timely is helpful. But all the community-based stuff, the most successful brands I see in jiu-jitsu, it's just organic. They are in the community, active in the community, and it's a consistency in the time game.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. I just it's fun. It's fun being able to just to discuss stuff with people and pick people's brains. And I do feel like you've done a lot in the sport and for the sport, for sure. You may not think it, but honestly, I think you've done awesome. Writing books and stuff that I enjoyed reading. I was in the Philippines when I read your book. I was reading your book. I was on vacation.
Oh, that's really cool.
So I was I was across the world and I was, reading this book, and I think it was fun. It was a fun read for sure. It was it was a cool insight into your life too, which I'm kind of hesitant about as well, because people may reach out or people may know things about you that you don't necessarily want them to know. Or
you just have to come to terms with what you're okay with.
Yeah.
I get nervous and uncomfortable about it, but I wouldn't have written the book more closed off.
Sure.
Because if you're going to do a travel memoir about your life, it's hard to leave stuff out. Is that to be honest? I've gotten some pretty terrible emails, that I'm a whiny emo
terrible
bitch.
Emails.
Oh, I've gotten some pretty nasty emails.
That's insane, man.
Some nasty Amazon reviews. It's just you can't please everybody. It happens. And a lot of it's just he's so whiny, so emotional. It's I'm peeling back the layers. That's just what I was experiencing at the time. You feel
like you were honest in your book, pretty honest about, didn't hold a lot back. Yeah.
No, I was sometimes, my wife would say too honest, but I was really honest about, just what I was feeling, how I feel about those events now, 10 years later. I'm a lot older. I've had a lot of life experiences.
Sure.
The the mountains that I was facing were molehills in a lot of cases.
For sure.
It's because life's a lot harder than ex-girlfriend breaking up with you. But, you know, at the time, it was a big deal, and I had to learn a lot from it. So that's just whatever. That's
awesome, man. Well, I appreciate the time, brother. I know I don't want to keep you any longer, man. Send me your email if there's anything I can do to help you out. That's kind of.
I'm excited.
I'm pumped, man. Do you see yourself making your way down to Louisville, or are you in the area?
I think we'll be talking about some road trips. Check out Chewy. And I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate the offers to help. I'll definitely not turn down expert advice.
Yeah, send me some questions, man. I'd love to, you know, give you any information I can to help out. I'd love to see you back on the mats, brother.
And good luck with the podcast. Keep growing.
Appreciate it, dude. Thank you. I'll definitely keep in touch.
All right, man. Well, you have a good one. And best of luck.
Thanks a lot, Marshall. Appreciate your time, man.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you again to my guest, Marshall Carper, for joining me on the podcast, and thanks to you guys for listening. Again, jiu-jitsutherapist.com. Check out videos and instructional stuff on my YouTube channel, The Jiu-Jitsu Therapist. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher, and leave a review if you like the podcast. Thanks a lot, guys. See you all next time.